Hey, what are you doing? What's going on? Nick Digilio here. Hey, thanks for checking out my YouTube channel and all the other cool stuff that I'm doing, and I hope that you can help me out on Patreon. Donate a little dough, do it on a monthly basis, become a patron. $3, $9, $25 a month. It'll help me keep the videos going, help me keep the content going, and if you become a patron, you can see exclusive videos that I'll create just for patrons alone, including the behind-the-scenes story of what really happened at WGN. So donate. It'll help out and keep these things going. And these are all DIY stuff that I'm doing here. And so help me out on Patreon. Patreon.com/NickDShow. Patreon.com/NickDShow. Go there now. Donate. Thanks for checking out my YouTube channel. And my podcast is up and running twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. It's the Nick D Podcast. It's up and going. Subscribe, listen, tell your friends, subscribe, and rate and review, all that stuff. Go to radiomisfits.com and subscribe to the Nick D Podcast right now. So, as you know, I review movies, on these videos, and of course on my Nick D Podcast. Eric and Steve are back for official movie reviews like we used to do back in the WGN days. But I still love going to the movies, and I go to the movies all the time. The one movie that I'm most anticipating for a very long time, which I am seeing Thursday early at one of the early 7 p.m. screenings, it has bonus material, is the new Jackass movie, Jackass Forever. I fucking love the Jackass movies. I love the Jackass TV series. I make no apologies for it. I think Jackass is phenomenal. I love everything about it. It makes me laugh. It makes me happy. There are few things in the world that have existed in the past 20 years, over 20 years, 22 years or so, that have made me laugh harder, more consistently, and made me just happier than watching these idiots on Jackass. I also think that it is an incredibly accurate portrayal of this country, and I've often thought that it was just like, this is it, man. This is us. This is at that time it was like, this is us. This is our youth. This is people in their 20s, and now as Jackass Forever comes out, this is people approaching 50, and some of them in their 50s. I absolutely love it. So I make no apologies. And people who get all pretentious and, how can you like that? So fuck you. It's funny. It's hilarious. What these guys do are hilarious. Their personalities are hilarious. Jeff Tremaine, very smart guy. And all the people are like, oh, could you watch Jackass? Blah, 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 blah. Fuck off. It's funny. Period. End of story. So Jackass Forever comes out on February 4th. I'm seeing it Thursday, which would be 3 nights from today. Today is Monday, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm seeing it in 3 nights. And I cannot wait. I can't wait. And it's predicted that we're going to have like 14 inches of snow or whatever. I don't give a shit. I will hike. I will put on mountain climbing gear. I will dress up from head to toe in all. I don't care what I have to do to get to the theater. A blizzard is not going to keep me from seeing Jackass, and I'm going to laugh my ass off for the entire running time of that movie, as I have for all 3 of the other movies and every single episode and special that the Jackass crew has ever done. Jackass has a very interesting history, which I can go through really quickly here, but I think the Jackass stuff is hilarious. Look at this. This is how I'm going to be spending when I'm not doing my podcast. Preparing for my podcast and recording my podcast. I have 2 episodes to prepare for and to get ready for my guests and to do and record. Aside from that, before I go see Jackass on Thursday night, this is how I'm going to be spending my time. We've got Jackass, the unrated edition. We've got Jackass number 2, the unrated edition. This is one of my favorites, Jackass: The Lost Tapes. This is from the TV show, loaded with bits that they never really did, that they never got to do on the show. Then we got Jackass 2.5, which was all of the leftover bits that they couldn't do in the second Jackass movie. They put together in this. And there's some genius. Look at all these goddamn beautiful men. Look at all of them. And then we have Jackass the Box Set, which is the entire 3 seasons of Jackass, all in one great package with a great booklet to go along with it, in case you want to do some reading about the history of Jackass. And it is Jackass, the box set, which has every episode and extras. And then this is the creme de la creme. It's the Jackass 7 movie collection. So it is the original Jackass, unrated, also unrated, the Jackass number 2 unrated, Jackass 2.5, Jackass 3 unrated, Jackass 3.5 unrated, all the extras, and Bad Grandpa and Bad Grandpa .5. So all the stuff that they didn't do in Bad Grandpa, that's the one where Johnny Knoxville is dressed up like an old guy and they get the little kid and they do all kinds of, pranks and stunts out into the world. This is the best. Okay, so I have all of this stuff from the TV series to the movies to the sequels to all the stuff, the 7 movies and all that stuff. This is all going to be in and out of my my DVD player for the next 2.5 to 3 days until I see Jackass Forever. And again, I make no apologies for this. I am a certified Jackass maniac. I fucking love Jackass. When it first appeared, it debuted on October 1st, 2000. And I remember watching it. My girlfriend at the time, we lived together, Helena, who I adored and loved. We watched it together, and we flipped out. And she kind of knew, she was younger than me. She was about 9 years younger than me, Helena was. Still is. And she was into the whole skateboarding thing. Like, she knew a lot of people who were into the skateboard, that culture, the skateboard culture and stuff like that. She knew a lot of people, so as a result, I got to know them. And a lot of the guys that were in the original Jackass, a lot of the guys that are still in Jackass, are a few years younger than me. They're about 5-6 years younger than me. Like Knoxville he'll be 51 in March, and he's still doing this shit. God bless him. He was just on Royal Rumble. One of the highlights of the Royal Rumble was watching Johnny Knoxville on it. But anyway, these guys were in their early 20s, somewhere like 18, 19 years old when they started doing this shit. And it all started in the skateboard culture in the late 90s. These guys all were skateboarders. Some wanted to be professional, but they were all goofballs, and they would do all kinds of stunts on their skateboards and do all kinds of goofy shit. They hung around. There was a lot of drinking. The first couple of Jackass movies were like whether they were or not, they were like 90-minute commercials for Miller High Life. I think High Life was a sponsor for the first couple of movies. So lots of drinking, lots of pot smoking, lots of partying, lots of acting like goofballs in their late teens and early 20s, and doing really stupid, dangerous shit on skateboards. And so these group of guys, led by Knoxville and Jeff Tremaine, who's kind of the leader of the whole thing, who ended up directing all the movies and producing the TV show, they were like, we should do something. So they put together a magazine. There was like Thrasher magazine at that time, and some other magazines, but they put together a magazine called Big Brother, and Big Brother was this magazine they put together, and they wanted to stand out from the rest of the culture. And some of the stuff that was happening in that skateboard culture was really sort of ridiculous and crazy, lots of stunts and doing crazy shit, and they wanted to document that. And this was in the early days of like video cameras and things like that, before it became ubiquitous, and nobody had phones that would film shit back then. So they thought, we got to do something. So the original guys were Knoxville, Jeff Tremaine, Chris Pontius, Steve-O, you got Wee Man, you got Preston, Dave England, you had Ryan Dunn and Bam Margera. And those were kind of the core original guys, with Knoxville being the face of the group, because Knoxville's he's a beautiful man. I mean, you look at Johnny Knoxville, and he was hot. He had cover boy looks. He was a beautiful, beautiful, hunky man. And so he was the face. He was the guy you could sell. These other guys, not so good looking. A lot of them were just goofy. And so they thought, okay, we've got this beautiful male model looking guy. He'll be the face of this thing. And so they decided that they're going to do this thing. Steve-O wanted to originally do it, but they decided they were going to do this thing where they were going to mace Johnny Knoxville. They were going to hit him with a taser. They were going to pepper spray him, and they were also going to put on a bulletproof vest and shoot a .38 bullet with a live round ammunition at him. And they videotaped it. And they did 2 separate tapes. They kind of edited it together, and they pitched it around town. Nobody would touch it because it was so fucking crazy. Like, these guys, like, what are you doing? This guy risking his life, putting a bulletproof vest on, getting shot with a gun, tasered, all this crazy shit. So it was like a self-defense test thing that they did for Big Brother that was like this cult thing around the skateboard thrasher community. And the video got duped of like VHS copies over and over again, and it made the rounds. They decided to pitch it. They pitched it all over the place. People were just like, get the fuck out of our office. These like early 20s goofball skateboarder idiots would walk into an office for a business meeting saying, here's a videotape, we shot this guy with a taser and a gun, it's really fucking funny, what do you think? And everybody was like, get out of our offices. And then Spike Jonze kind of hit it big. Spike Jonze, who at that time was known as the director of a lot of like really hilarious and really cool Beastie Boys videos. He was known for that kind of stuff. But then like he did stuff like Being John Malkovich, and he started to get a film career going. And what I love about this is that people, I remember when Jackass the movie came out, the first Jackass movie came out, people were like, oh God, how could you watch that shit? You know, they were all pretentious, and yet they're running around praising everything that Spike Jonze did. Like Spike Jonze is making like, Being John Malkovich, and the same critics that were praising that movie were slamming anything that had to do with Jackass. Like, the TV show is ridiculous. It's the end of culture as we know it. Politicians were going nuts. Like, how could people watch this? Our youth is so stupid. Oh my God, it's the end of the world because these guys are doing all this crazy shit, and how could anybody praise this? Meanwhile, this guy who gets an Oscar nomination, who's been praised by every pretentious critic on the planet, is one of the major creative components of Jackass. I love the fact that Spike Jonze was a big part of Jackass and was like sticking it to the man. Like, oh, you like my films? You think I'm really talented? Oh, and yet you hate this stuff? Well, I'm part of that too. Fucking idiots. So anyway, they finally get purchased by MTV. Sees it and they're like, okay, we'll take a chance on you maniacs and we'll see what we can do. Now, they had already had the Tom Green show at that point. And Tom Green, and all the guys from Jackass would admit this, Tom Green's the guy who opened up the door for Jackass. Because Tom Green was doing the pranks, he was doing the crazy shit, he was doing stuff to himself and to his parents and to his friends that ultimately would influence the Jackass guys. They would take it to a more extreme level. Like, their stunts were insane. There were many times when these guys were hurt. I mean, the amount of broken bones and stitches and concussions and all kinds of unbelievable injuries that all the Jackass guys have gone through. Nobody else has done that. But Tom Green started it. Tom Green is the biggest influence of Jackass. I love Tom Green. In fact, I got his phone number. I can call him right now. He and I are actually buddies, and I worship Tom Green. And when Tom Green came on, I was all about it. I think Tom Green's a genius. I think Freddy Got Fingered is a fucking masterpiece and legitimately a great, subversive, brilliant movie. One of the greatest pranks ever played on the movie-going population ever in the history of film. And it's genius. So Tom Green opened the door. Jackass guys kicked the door wide open. But if it wasn't for Tom Green, Jackass would have never made it to MTV. Never, ever, ever. So if you're a Jackass fan, you got Tom Green to thank for that. So it premieres October of 2000. Now, at this point, I was already a maniac about Tom Green. So anything that was in, because Tom Green was a skateboarder as well. So anything that was in that milieu, I kind of was like, okay, cool. This is like Tom Green. I'm going to watch it. I love Jackass from the moment I saw it. The TV show was hilarious. The guys, one of the things I love most about the Jackass stuff is just how these guys are clearly friends and the enormous amount of joy that these guys get in fucking with each other. Like, they really love each other, and they laugh, and they do horrible things to one another, and they pull horrible pranks to each other, and yet they love each other. The thing that makes these movies and the series so funny is the reactions from the guys around it. When somebody does something horrible or stupid, like sticking a fire, like sticking a bottle rocket up their ass and lighting it, watching the other guys laugh is hilarious. Someone like being kicked in the stomach while they're peeing and then vomiting, everybody else laughing, and that makes everybody else vomit. And I know this is as base and stupid and moronic as you could possibly get. The show is called Jackass, okay? It's not called Geniuses. It's not called This Is Intelligent. It's called Jackass because the stuff they're doing is complete jackassery. And they make no apologies for it. They revel in it. And I love that. So the stunts were hilarious. The guys were great. The relationships were funny. Each guy had a different personality and kind of a specialty. And the joy of watching these idiots, they were real good friends. They just got drunk. They smoked a bunch of pot. They hit each other in the nuts. They would do all kinds of crazy shit. You know what they do. Now, as the show became more successful, things started to get a little bit strange. The movie came out in 2002. It was after the show had been canceled. Johnny Knoxville pulled the plug after 3 seasons. And the guys did offshoots, like Bam Margera did Viva La Bam, Pontius and Steve-O did Wild Boys. And there were lots of offshoots from it that kept the Jackass sort of thing happening. I mean, right now, ridiculousness is kind of like, if it wasn't for Jackass, there'd be no ridiculousness. And ridiculousness is essentially what MTV is now. It's the 24-hour ridiculousness channel. And I love ridiculousness. And then, people started to get popular. They started making money. Johnny Knoxville started appearing in other movies, became like an actor. Tremaine, is like the man behind all of these incredibly successful TV shows. They got millions of dollars. All these guys got money, and then some weirdness started to happen. Relationships started to fall apart. My favorite member of the Jackass crew was Ryan Dunn. By far my favorite. He was the guy who actually, in the first movie, did something that Steve-O wouldn't do. Steve-O has been known to do the craziest shit, from snorting wasabi, to getting a tattoo of himself on his back, to getting a tattoo while they're riding around in a Jeep in the desert over bumps. Doing all these, Steve-O was known to do the most outrageous, most dangerous, most insane shit. But he drew a line in Jackass, the original Jackass movie, where he wouldn't stick a toy car, like a Matchbox car, up his ass and then go to the doctor and get an x-ray and then tell the doctor that he fell asleep at a party and whatever. He wouldn't do that. He took oh no, I can't do that. My father wouldn't want me to do that. He's suddenly saying, this is the guy who's doing all this other insane shit. So Ryan Dunn stepped up, and Ryan Dunn put a Matchbox car in a condom, he shoved it up his ass, and he went to a doctor to get an x-ray. So Ryan Dunn did that. Ryan Dunn was always my favorite. He was always my favorite Jackass. I found him to be the funniest. He seemed the coolest. He was always good with whatever stunt or whatever practical jokes they pulled on him. I loved Ryan Dunn. Ryan Dunn died in a drunk driving accident. He and one of the other crew members of Jackass were in the car. Ryan Dunn was driving. He was drunk. Fucking idiot. 2011. And he died. He died in a tragic drunk driving accident. Nobody's fault but his own. He's an idiot for getting behind the wheel and getting loaded and getting behind the wheel. There's no forgiving that. And he was young when he passed away, and boom. And substance abuse became a major issue within it. Steve-O almost died. Steve-O was drunk through most of the first movie and really drunk during the second movie. He got sober. He's been sober now for 13 years. Bam Margera is still struggling with substance abuse and drugs and alcohol, which is why he's not in Jackass Forever. There was a lawsuit he filed against Tremaine and Knoxville for not letting him in the movie, but they made him say, hey, look, you're going to have to take a piss test every day. You got to sign a contract that says you're not going to be fucked up on set. And all of these guys now are, for the most part, they're clean now, or at least they don't party as much as they used to. Back in the day, the TV show and all that stuff, they got loaded all the time, completely fucking drunk. And now they don't do that anymore. Some of these guys are in their 50s. Most of them now are married and have kids. And it's interesting to see how this is going to translate into Jackass Forever. So you actually, if you're a fan of these guys, you've watched them grow up over these years and see what they've done in their personal lives and their careers and married and kids and all that stuff. And to see that they still want to do this, and they've come back after, the last movie came out like 12 years ago. Jackass 3D was the last movie. And these movies, each movie has made more money than the first. The first movie made like $80 million. Nobody expected it to be that big. Second movie made like 120. And the third movie, the 3D movie, made like almost $200 million at the box office. And this thing, despite the fact that there are more challenges now, it'll be interesting to see how it plays because of COVID. It was originally supposed to come out in October, but there was another spike in COVID, so they delayed it till now, February 4th. It'll be interesting to see if people come out for it. I hope they do. I hope you mask up. You got to show your Vax card. Mask up. Go to the theater, because seeing these movies with a crowd is unbelievable. I'll give you a quick example. My friend Mike was anti-reality show, anti-any of that stuff. He was like, I don't want to fucking see any of this stuff. Well, a large group of us, I was in a play called Among the Dead, which was this play that I did at the end of 2002. And I mentioned the girl Helena. She broke up with me, and I was going through like the worst breakup of it was the worst breakup of my life ever in my life. And she broke up with me, and I was doing this play at the time, and all the people in the play, we were all like, hey, listen, the play was closing, and it was kind of the only thing that I had to keep me going. And so Jackass was playing at Bruin View. For those of you who don't know, Bruin View is at the Vic Theater, and you would go and see movies, the bar would be open, and you could get hammered. They would have beer specials and, pitcher specials and shit. And you basically, people went there, drank, full bar, booze, get drunk, and watch movies. That's what Bruin View was. So they had Jackass playing there with Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. And it was like this incredible double bill. So all of the people from Among the Dead, the cast and the crew, we all went after we closed the show. We all decided, okay, let's go one final blast. We'll go see Jackass and Bill and, or not Bill and Ted, Jay and Silent Bob. And so my friend Mike, who is an actor, was like, I don't want to see that shit. Fuck Jackass. He was anti like reality TV. He thought the idea was stupid. And I was like, look, here's the deal. I had already seen the Jackass movie by this point. I'd probably seen it in the theater, I don't know, 6-7 times at this point already. And so I'm like, no, you got to go, man. It's the funniest thing you'll ever see in your life. And I said, look, here's the deal. It's only $5 to get in. If you don't like it, I'll give you your admission and I'll buy you a pitcher of beer, okay? And you'll get my hefty apology. So we go. The movie starts, Jackass, the original Jackass starts. 10 minutes into the movie, first of all, I'd never seen Mike laugh harder. I knew the guy for years at this point. I had never seen him laugh that hard ever. 10 minutes into the movie, he comes back to where I was sitting. I was sitting at a table behind him. He comes back and he walks up to me and he goes, all right, this is really fucking funny and I apologize. And that was it. So it won over a new convert. I have never laughed harder than the first Jackass movie since, well, until the second one, the third one, and now the new one. I haven't seen it, but I'm sure. I have never felt more connection with an audience during a comedy, ever. I have never seen an audience, the many times, and multiple times that I've seen all the Jackass movies in the theater, I've never seen an audience laugh harder, more consistently than the Jackass movies. They are some of the funniest movies ever made, ever. And the communal experience of seeing the Jackass movies with a big crowd, all there to watch these idiots do their thing, it's joyous. It's pure joy. So now it'll be interesting. Like, Bam can't be a part of it. Dunn has passed away. They brought in some new people because these guys are getting old. They're hitting their 50s. So they brought in some new people. They brought in some more ladies to do some of the stunts. They brought in younger people. And some other stars are doing it as well. And, like Machine Gun Kelly is in this one. Other celebrities are in it. And, they all make, appearances in it. And some of the people that were inspired by Tom Green, I'm blanking. Why am I blanking on the guy's name right now? I'm blanking on his name. The guy who had the TV show on Cartoon Network, the Adult Swim. Eric Andre. Shit, I can't believe I blanked on his name. Eric Andre, who was obviously influenced by Tom Green and obviously influenced by Jackass. He's in this one. So there's like a whole new generation of jackasses in this one. And the stunts are supposed to be insane. Johnny Knoxville broke 10 bones. He got a concussion, split his face open, getting knocked over by a bull, getting shot out of a cannon. People are sticking their tongues on tasers. They're getting bit in the face by snakes. It's going to be great. It's going to be genius. I cannot wait to see it. I'm going to be filling my time between now and then, besides my podcast at radiomisfits.com, watching this stuff and laughing my balls off until I go on Thursday night to the preview of it with extra bonus features. There's going to be extra footage till I see Jackass Forever. So, ever since October 1st, 2000, the landscape of comedy changed with Jackass, and I'm forever grateful. And what's hilarious is I do have an ally, a very unusual ally in the Jackass world, and that's Kathy O'Malley, my old WGN compadre. Back in 2000 when the movie came out in 2002, we were both, doing shows on WGN at that time, and she, again, unapologetically loves the Jackass movies and loves the Jackass guys. And we bonded big time on that. We have a lot in common, Kathy and I do, but one of the most unusual things is both of us absolutely adore Jackass. And I'm sure that Kathy's going to see Jackass in the theater, Jackass Forever in the theater, and then we can bond on that as well. So it brings people together. So anyway, I cannot wait for Jackass Forever. I cannot wait. I'll give you a review here, and then we'll do full reviews on my podcast, which is why you have to subscribe to my podcast right now, radiomisfits.com. And Jackass Forever, baby. It's going to be the greatest. Yeah. So unapologetically, Jackass rules. If you think it's stupid and dumb, it is. If you think, how could you watch that shit? You're a moron. It's genius. It's funny. Get a sense of humor. Jackass Forever, baby.